For my research project, I wanted to make things I'd been interested in the past, while also building off of what we learned in class. In doing the project, I looked at a multitude of tutorials, but so far only 5 have been implemented in the final. The first tutorial took me through the process of making 3 simple enemy AIs. It didn't go into behavior trees, but I'm planning on looking into those a bit more. These 3 AI bots instead use a component called pawn sensing that has attributes for sight and hearing built in. The tutorial only really used the sight part of the component, but I want to play around and see what I can get the hearing components to do. The 3 AIs that were made all have key differences to how they operate. The first is called a charger class. It chases after the player if it sees them. The tutorial only really went through how to get the AI to chase after the player. I then went in later and added its ability to kill the player after it catches them. The second component, the second AI is called a turret class. It's stationary and doesn't move except to rotate and follow the player. It's able to shoot projectiles that deal a small amount of damage to the player each time. An interesting fact is I had to look up an extra tutorial to make a projectile for the turret to shoot. Being the original tutorial used something that was a part of the first player character. Something unavailable to me using the third-person character. The third and final AI is the enemy drone AI. It uses much the same code as the turret, but it has an extra added part that gives it 3 movement position nodes. Using these movement position nodes, it'll move between the 3 randomly with this get random location. Another interesting thing is that you can place its movement positions as it's placed in the world. As you can see here, you come to the component list. You select movement position 1, movement position 2, and movement position 3. And it now moves between the 3 positions you just set out for it. Something that a level designer can easily use to manipulate how the enemy moves. I only have 3 set up, but it's easy to add more just by simply recopying and adding another. The next tutorial I used was something that made a checkpoint and save system. The checkpoint system first starts with making a save class that keeps whatever variables you're trying to save in the first place. Then, through a series of branches and sequencers, you have the checkpoint check if there's saves and then loads if they are. The third tutorial I followed showed how to get the player into a crouch, and then also showed how to set up the animations for said crouching. The last tutorial I used was something that someone else used, but I felt would help in the making of this level I was using. Just a simple elevator to get up and down from places. It simply makes use of a timeline node and has an editable endpoint. Checkpoint has a special condition to it called load, that if it's set to false, will clear out all previous checkpoints, so that when you load a new level, your character won't get thrown to the old level when they die. The checkpoint tutorial also went through and showed how to make a death plane, mostly just so you can demonstrate that the checkpoints are indeed working. some things I set up on my own is that the enemy AIs really weren't made. The enemy AIs weren't given a way to hurt the player. I had to make those things myself. I set it to where if you're caught by the chaser AI, that it'll immediately kill you and set you back to your last checkpoint. I also set up a simple live system that decrements every time the turrets, drones, and chasers get you. However, I also created something called New Life, which when you collect it, it'll give you an extra life. But they will also be destroyed upon collection. Another tutorial I followed but did not use. Another tutorial I followed but have yet to implement is the ability to make the character fly after a double jump. It requires a bunch of checks and such to make sure that the character isn't jumping, to make sure the character's just jumping or just trying to fly. You don't want to be suddenly flying, you're just trying to jump up a small gap.